Hey, hi there YouTube, and welcome to my tutorial on how to do a complete flight for the PMDG 747. This is a very complex plane to fly. I mean, it's the most complex plane I've flown in Flight Simulator X, and it's very close to the 747 in real life. Well, I believe it to. I'm not a pilot of a 747, so I couldn't comment. So here I have the plane in cold and dark mode, so everything is off. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go into the overhead panel and turn the standby power to auto, and that means when we turn the battery on, our plane will have some power. Once done that, we're going to turn on the APU. We did that just by right clicking twice. You can see it. The switch goes to start and then to on. So we now need to wait for the APU to start on. So while we're doing this, we can go onto the flight management computer, the FMC, and we do this to enter in our route. So the first thing we do, we click on FMC here, and we get some information on the page, and then if we go to the right hand button here, this is to progress on to the next page of your system. So the next page is entering in our position. If you are starting from cold and dark, you need to set the IRS position, and to do this on the overhead panel, you go onto IRS here, and to do this you right click once on each of the toggle switches here to move it onto nav, and then you click once to move it onto a line, and you get some blank boxes here. If you click here, so click on to the right of GPS position, it will copy the data, and then you set it here. For sometimes it will say enter IRS position once you've already done this. I'm not sure why the plane does this, but it means you have to do it again. So it just means you have to right click and then click again to, I think it's just a double check that you actually want to do it. It may be a feature in the Boeing 747. In real life, I'm not sure. But once you've done this and you've got the set IRS position, you just move these switches back to nav to confirm, and you'll get a time delay here. This only took me about 15 seconds to do. If you haven't changed any of your options, by default it will take about 10 minutes to do. If you go on to add-ons PMG, click on options, you can choose how long it's going to take you. I'd recommend making it quicker because it's just annoying having to wait. So anyway, by the time we've done that, the APU should have turned on. The APU is just like a very small jet engine which provides power to the aircraft. So we'll turn this on because we don't want the battery to run out. Okay, so once done that, we need to go onto the route, and basically just say where we are right now. We're at Gatwick Airport, and we can check what runway we are on. I've forgotten, so you can just go into the satellite view. So on runway 08 right. So, oops. Alright, you need to do that. Alright, so just type in 08 right. And our destination is going to be Manchester Airport. You can get these by just looking at the flight planner. And we had the option there to activate it. However, we do not want to activate it right now. We still have some more information to put in. 0 fuel weight, that's your weight without any fuel. You just click on it and it calculates it for you automatically. Our reserves, that could be any number really. I tend to do 25. Our cost index, that's from 0 to 100. It's your trade-off between performance, so how fast you want to get there, and economy, so how much fuel you want to burn. So if you want to get there very fast, you put in a high number. If you want to get there slowly, you put in a small number. Next, cruise altitude. By default, I just tend to put in flight level 300, which is 30,000 feet. FSX will you don't really have to worry about it too much. I mean, Flight Simulator, you can get an optimum altitude. I just tend to put in that number. So anyway, in this takeoff page, I tend to put in 20 degrees of flaps, and then it will calculate your numbers here on the side. So if you just click on them, it will enter them onto your computer. And now if you go back to the captain's left side of the front seat, you can see the numbers have started to appear here. So these will be called out for you when you're doing a takeoff. So now that we've got all that finished, we're back to the route page, and that means that we can set up the sort of exact path for our aircraft to fly. Because currently we're just set on a straight line, never changing course, but there are certain routes we have to fly. What I mean by that is we have to select our SIDS, and the SIDS is basically like a way of leaving the airport. So you can select them down the side, and you can see we've got a blue line going across the screen. And because it's a blue dashed line, it means it's still in planning mode. So I'm happy with that line there. And now we click on departure and arrival again, and we click on the second one from the top. For some reason, PMDG have allowed you to go back to your original airport, which is here. So we want to go to Manchester, which is here, the second one. So I click here, and we can select our runway. ILS is your ILS approach, so you use the radar to automatically land you. So if we select one here, we're going to land on ILS 23 right. And also if we move our map mode to plan, we will be transferred to the 23 right runway in Manchester. Next we're going to do our trans, but this is basically, if we pick a suitable one, alright, perhaps I'm not going to choose one. Okay. So obviously I just like to sort of browse through which ones will be most suited for the runway. Because you've got quite a big, obviously a very big aircraft, the 747, so you want to pick one that looks right, so you have a good amount of turning space. I'll pick this one. Okay, I'm going to leave the trans. If you're wondering, a trans is essentially a way of sort of almost like a gate. So it's a gate which you go through to reach the runway. Perhaps not. I have not explained it. Well, it's like a transition from going from one place to another, sort of on the map of the runway. But anyway, as you see, we've got our blue lines here. So we've got the blue line here for leaving the runway. Leaving Gatwick. Then we've got the blue line here for landing at Manchester. And now, if I go back to route, it will give us the option to execute it. This basically means to save it in the computer. And now we have saved it, the route turns pink. And you may be wondering here why we have this big gap here. Essentially there's this gap because of two different things. And if we go to our legs page, this is all the waypoints we have. Where we have a gap, we'll have this thing saying route discontinued. And essentially this is telling you, we got to here, would you like to go anywhere else before you go to here? And in our case the answer is going to be no. So to fill this gap, we're going to click on the waypoint which is under this text here. You can see it goes back onto the dashboard, and now we're going to put it in the VEN, the empty boxes. So if we just browse through the legs page by clicking the next page, we can fill these boxes in. So there's no boxes in. You see we've got this dashed line again here because we're on planning mode, and if we press the execute button here, the lights popped up. Yep, the pink line's gone away and there are no gaps anymore. And also, because you're on planning mode, you can do a step-by-step view of your route. So go on to first, see on the first page. And just start at the start. So our first page, we're on runway 08 right, and we press step mode and it goes along each waypoint you go, and you can see all the gaps have disappeared. It's one continuous route. So now we have done that, we can go back to the initial reference page and we go back to index, and you can see all the steps we have taken to complete the setup. We have one last one we have to go to, which is approach, and this is setting the flaps we have and the speed we need to land at. So at 30 degrees of flaps, we need to be at 146 knots when we are just about to land. So paste it, click here to copy it, and we click on the flap/speed to paste it in. So that's all we need to do for setting it up. Also, I'd like to point out these numbers here. So this is saying at this waypoint here, Gen B, we are going to be at 156 knots and above 702 feet. The A means above. And you can modify these. So see, I'm going on the last page. It's saying here 240 knots at 3,500 feet. I tend to like to go a bit slower than this. I like to go at 220 knots. So you put 220 / and then you simply click on here to change it. And you can see this go on to mod, and the execute button has appeared. So just click on here, the screen goes blank and it's changed. If we wanted to change the altitude, we'd first do a / and then we'd type in the number. But yeah, okay, get rid of that. So anyway, now we're going to turn on the engines. To turn on the engines, we need to go to the engine bleed section first here, and turn on all these here. So essentially this is turning the air from the APU and giving it to the engines, enabling them to turn on. Next we go into the thrust menu, and we're going to allow the engines to receive fuel. We do this just by clicking them and moving the toggle switches up. Now we just turn the ignition on, and then we just click on these buttons here. You can only do 2 at a time, and they turn on white if everything is okay. You can see the engine starting to spool up, and the plane is starting to switch on. So while this is happening, we can start adding some flaps. Now flaps take quite a while to do. For some reason you have to wait for the flaps to reach 5 degrees before you can start to move them down more. So as you can see, the engine started to switch on. And I don't know if you heard this clicky sound, but the engines, these toggle switches have gone back into place, which means you can do the final 2. And also we can turn on the generators on. So it means the aircraft is going to be getting power from the engines instead of the APU. And now I can turn on the hydraulic pumps on, and then we can just do the final few things like the window heat, the trim air, and the dual dampener. Okay, so once these engines started on, we're nearly ready to take off. So before we take off, we're going to turn the autopilot and the flight director on. Now we're going to turn on the lateral navigation and the vertical navigation on. Now this arms the navigation, and it will tell you if there are any errors in your configuration. If there are any errors, FMC will display a message. Next, we're going to turn our altitude to the altitude which you set, which is 30,000 feet. Actually, I'll show you one more thing. If you go to VNav and go to the second page, it will tell us our optimal altitude. So 382, flight level 382 is optimal altitude. So if we press EXE, this will save our changes. So this thing on this panel here, this will tell us our maximum altitude. So say we left it at say 36,000 feet, even though the flight computer would want to go to 38,000 feet, this will prevent it from going there. So this is why we're going to have to raise this to 38.2 thousand feet, flight level 382. So anyway, we are now ready to take off. I'm just going to turn these off to get rid of these messages here. And we are now ready to take off. So if we open the throttle, we'll begin running down the runway. So once we reach your speeds, they will tell you to take off. So V1, rotate, tell us to pull back on the throttle. And now once we're in the air, we'll turn on the autopilot, the left one. We don't need all three to come up, just on the left. Now we'll start pulling in the flaps, lifting up the gear, and also change the map mode back to map mode. And the aircraft will start following this line. This green line here, this indicates where we are going to hit our top of the climb. That green line isn't too accurate because it's constantly changing, because as you gain more altitude, you climb slower because there are less air. And this TC here, this indicates when you're going to reach the top of the climb, and this takes into account the reduction in vertical climb when you are gaining more altitude. So if we zoom in a bit on the panel, you can see our aircrafts are going to change in a few moments to move along this pink line here. So I'm going to pause this video now, and I'm going to come back when we are just about to reach the top of the climb. Okay, welcome back YouTube. As you can see, I'm approaching the top of the climb. I'm about 10 nautical miles away. You can see this. You can see the green line here was very close to the top of the climb, and it was quite inaccurate actually. The true top of the climb is actually going to be here. So when we reach the top of the climb, we'll hear a beep, and the aircraft mode will change from climb mode to cruise mode. Pardon me. You heard that beep there, we're just approaching it. I don't know if you realise, but you can change how far you zoom out with this toggle switch here. You click to move it to the left, right click to move it to the right. So we've reached our cruise altitude, and this means we're going to be we're going to be flying along at this height until we've reached the top of descent, which is opposite to the top of the climb, obviously. And that marks where we start descending towards our destination airport, which is Manchester Airport in this case. I'd just like to point you out a few things about the PMDG. If you click on the ECAS button here, you can view some information about the aircraft. So I've now got some fuel here, and this shows you how the fuel is getting to your 4 engines of the 747. The green line indicates the direction of the fuel, and you can play about with this if you go onto the overhead panel. So if I decided to turn off the pump for 1 and 2, then you can see the fuel will be, engine 1 will receive fuel from a different fuel source. So if I turn it back on, the green pump will come on. Now you can view all sorts of things here. You can view the electricals, the hydraulics. The hydraulic fluid is how all the mechanical movements, all the ailerons, and rudder is controlled. Obviously, you'd have to be Superman to actually, if you were to do it without the help of hydraulics. These are your doors, your gear, so your wheels which you land on, your temperatures, and just in general information about the aircraft, and of course your engines here, which is a more detailed view of, a different view of the window you have here. So I'm going to pause this video here, and I'm going to restart filming when we get to the top of descent, because that's when we start having to do things and preparing our aircraft for the actual landing. Okay, so we're nearly approaching the top of descent. You can see the top of descent is just here, and because we've nearly approached it, we get a message by the FMC to reset the MCP altitude. Now, the MCP is this section here. And essentially what this is saying is it's resetting the target, because our target before we got to cruise altitude is going to be 38,000 feet, because we're targeting that cruise. However, when we go into descent mode, our target is going to be ground level, which is the height of the height of the runway above sea level. So our new target altitude, I reset to 0. This will not start descending the plane to 0 because it's not been instructed to. So imagine this gets inverted. So this is saying our minimum altitude is going to be 0 feet. So before, if I set this to 4,000, the aircraft would not go above this height, but because this aircraft is going to be in descent mode in the next few seconds, this is going to be the minimum altitude, so the aircraft is not going to be able to go below 4,000 feet. In descent mode I just moved the aircraft down to 0 feet, sorry, the target down to 0 feet, because I'm going to be landing and I'm not really going to be bothered to try and work out the altitude of the airport I'm landing at. So now I've reached the top of the descent. This graph has appeared on the right of the navigation screen, and this tells you your current rate of descent almost. Imagine you draw a straight line from one waypoint to the other. It's going to be in a downward slope because you're descending. And this essentially, this line in the middle is the correct slope going down. So imagine this line always touching that slope down. Now, if you perhaps that wasn't the best example, but if you're too high, as in you're descending, but you're not descending enough, then this will move down. If this bubble here, almost saying is too high, it means you have descended too quickly. So the aircraft will continually adjust itself so that this indicator here is going to be as close to the middle as possible. If your aircraft is constantly here, it could indicate that your aircraft needs some drag, which would mean that your aircraft, which means you'd have to deploy the aircraft spoilers to slow the aircraft down. This is because the aircraft prioritises your aircraft speed before your altitude. So if you're going too fast, your aircraft will stop descending, else your aircraft could overspeed and cause damage to the actual aircraft itself. So as you can see, currently I am pretty much spot on in the middle and having a pleasant, very easy descent towards the runway. So you can see my path here, and it will be a very easy flight towards the runway. Now you may ask, why is the flight path like this? Why are we going here, 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 here? Why not just go there? Well, the thing is, these SIDs and stars are essentially maps, navigation for pilots to fly into the runways. And these navigations are designed by the government or local councils, so that the aircraft's flight path is not above, does not disturb as many people as possible. This is so that the aircraft is not flying over people's houses for as long as possible. I mean, it would be nice if you were living near a runway. You would very much appreciate it if aircraft would not fly over your house, but fly over some countryside instead, where there are not many people to disturb. So that's the reason these are perhaps not the most direct route to fly. So essentially, you just have to keep monitor your aircraft a bit more when you're descending. When you're just about to land and very close to the runway, that's when you start having to do stuff in preparing the aircraft for landing. And while cruising, you basically have to do nothing, because you're just flying in a straight line at a constant speed for so many hours. So I'm going to pause this again. I'm going to start recording again when we are closer towards the runway and we start having to do stuff like deploying our flaps and landing gear, etc. Okay, welcome back. As you can see, I'm a lot closer to the airport now. If you can notice here on the side, you can see that I'm too high when descending on my descent towards the runway. I was thinking about introducing some speed brakes or spoilers. However, you can see the number is quickly decreasing, which indicates the airplane is quickly correcting itself. If you notice here in the, I've forgotten what it's called, but you can see here you've got this indicator here. This is from the ILS, the localizer, and once we get very close to the runway, we'll have another one here. And these give the aircraft a direction of how far to the left or right of the runway are, and if we are on top or below the localizer. The localizer, or the ILS, is essentially a way of guiding aircraft towards the runway. It's like this here. You can actually introduce the spoilers here, because this number is starting to get very large. So this should start to reduce a bit. You can see the aircraft's currently going to be putting itself. Yeah, you can see the number starts to reduce. But you know my previous example where I used about imagine drawing a line from one waypoint to the other. That's the same as to what the localizer does. There's a vertical line, or slanted line, which will guide the aircraft correctly down to the runway. Now here we go, the bubble here. This will tell us how far above or below. As you can see, because I'm not in line with the runway, not in line at all, it's going to be far to the left, far to the right. So anyway, I'm starting to this, getting close to the runway, so I'm going to introduce some flaps. Now, as you can see, I'm back on path for my descent towards Manchester Airport. So when extending the flaps, you want to make sure that you don't go into this red section here. This indicates your maximum speed for your flaps. So when you extend your flaps, your maximum speed is reduced because your flaps add drag to the aircraft. So if we go on to FMC, you can see our final approach speed is going to be 146 knots. When we reach this waypoint here, it's going to reduce to 220 knots, and that will enable us to increase some more flaps. If you watched the first part, I did modify the flight plan from reducing this speed here to 240 I reduced it to 220 from 240. As you see, it's changed here, so I can add some more flaps. I've got an FMC message, so I start off FMC. It's telling me drag is required. Essentially, just use your common sense when deciding whether to use speed brakes or not. So I've got 10 degrees of flaps. You don't want to leave your flaps you don't want to leave extending the flaps until too late, because sometimes you don't actually have that much time between turning and landing at the runway, and the flaps on this PMDG 747 can take quite a while to extend fully. So I'm just about to make my final turn towards the runway, and I shall be lined up ready to land. Once we're lined up, we're going to press the approach button, and what this will do, the aircraft will automatically line itself up for glide scope. This is only for runways which have ILS support, and this just depends whether it's ILS support in real life or not. If a runway does not have ILS support, ILS, which stands for Instrument Landing System, you'll have to land the plane manually by just using your sight instead of any electronic means. So as you can see there, I am naturally actually lining up for glidescape and slope and descent. And as we turn, this is going to move to the centre more as we get in line with the runway. So as you can see, the aircraft is increasing its altitude because it's slightly above the descent path which it's following. Now that it's slightly below, it's going to ask us to reduce some drag. And now that we are on our final turn towards the runway, we are going to hit the approach button. So as you can see, all three lights turn on, and the aircraft will dramatically start to move, and it'll make sure these two bubbles, indicators here, are going to be lined up exactly. So I'm now going to add full flaps and open my landing gear. So as you can see, it's giving me a warning here. I'm also going to reduce this speed to 146 knots to be in line with our recommended computer speed. So at the final notch of flaps, and the final thing left to do, there's two things left to do actually. One, we have to press shift and then the backspace button to arm our speed brakes, This means that the speed brakes will extend when the aircraft has landed, when the wheels touch the ground. And the second thing to do is go onto the comm page and turn on the auto brakes. The higher the auto brakes, the more violently the aircraft will add brakes. So if you say on a wet day or land on a short runway, I would recommend having a higher amount of auto brakes. But also, if you're landing manually, you can use these lights to determine if you're on the correct glide slope. If you see a red and white light, you're on the correct correct path. If the lights are all red, you're too low, and if the lights are all white, you're too high. So the only thing left to do after arming the speed brakes and setting the auto brakes, you just need to wait, really. As you can see, these have lined up, so this means we are in line for runway, and this means we are along the correct glide slope. So as you can see, our final waypoint is runway 23 right. So when we land and our wheels touch, when all our wheels are along the ground, we initiate the reverse thrusters, and we do this by holding down F2. So as you can see, you'll have here altitude callouts when you get very close to the ground. This is mainly to guide the pilots when they are manually landing the airport. Manually landing at the runway. It may feel like you're going to crash at this point, but just have faith in the autopilot system.
40, 30, 20.
As you can see, we are flaring now. And we've just landed. So push forward slightly, and now initiate the reverse thrusters. So as you saw, the brakes have automatically come on. I'm not pushing any buttons to put the brakes on. So I'm below 80. And below 80 knots, so remove the reverse thrusters, and there it is. I've landed at Manchester Airport. Just turn off and go to your desired gate if you want to. I hope this video helped you in flying the 747. I would just recommend practicing, doing flights, perhaps short flights, to increase your knowledge, and just play about with the system. Play about, and that's mainly the best way to learn. So thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.